And I'm coming to you today with a video. Our Marriage Bed Monday. Today's Monday, so we're gonna do our Marriage Bed Monday video by video, topic by video today. I do think that our Marriage Bed Monday posts are very informative. They are helpful. It's something that's needed because you hear people talk about so many things in marriage, but they don't talk about how. You hear sex is important, but they're not really telling you specifics, So I do think that our posts to help are serious and helpful. Today's post, for me, I think is a bit more serious, more of a serious challenge for some marriages. There are more serious issues, but I do think this is serious, and because I've had more than 4 or 5 women come to me with this issue, and I talk to a small scale of women, so 5, 6 women out of the small scale that I have talked to within a year. It's enough for us to talk about it. I'm pretty sure there are more who are going through this similar issue, but they are not as open. We had one of our sisters come out and speak on it openly within the group, but then the others have talked to me privately. So I think it's enough to speak on, okay? So what we're talking about today is when your spouse is higher desiring, particularly your husband. We're talking about the husband. There are some higher desiring wives, not as many, as there are husbands. I think 30% of, let's see, it's 30%. Yeah, 30% of wives in marriages, out of marriages, 30% of wives have a higher sexual desire than their husbands, and the rest of that percentage belongs to the man who has a higher sexual desire. So, but anyway, we're not just talking about that because that's something that's kind of more, has a better, it's easier to resolve than today's issue. Today's issue is a little bit more complicated because we're talking about the husband who has a high desire, sexual desire, who wants to have sex, not only high desire, but he wants to have sex every single day, and then sometimes multiple times a day. And check this out. This is what makes it so bad, is that he sulks and he gets angry or have tantrums or withdrawals if the wife says no. I have talked to one wife who her husband expects her to have sex with him every day, and not just every day. She'd probably be all right with every day, but he wants her to have sex with him sometimes 5 times a day, guys, every single day. That's not normal, okay? Let me just start off by saying I am no counselor. I am not a therapist. I am a marriage coach. I don't want to be a counselor. I don't want to be a therapist. I love being a marriage coach, okay? I don't have professional training in counseling and therapy, but I do have enough education in topics that are related to general psychology, and not only that, research and study to know that some of these men are probably sex addicts, okay? Some of these men are probably sex addicts. So they have a problem and they don't even know they have a problem. And if they may know they have a problem, but sometimes it's not even controllable. So if you have tried some of the things that I'm going to talk about today, and you're not getting any relief, you may need to seek some outside help, okay? And you can go to a counselor or a therapist. You don't have to. The difference, you can go to just a marriage coach, someone like me. And I'm not just trying to put myself out there, but a marriage coach is results. The difference between a marriage coach, a lot of people ask, what's the difference? A marriage coach is results oriented. We are action driven. We ask you where you are now, not the past. We don't go into the past. I like to say I have a 5% rearview mirror, and I look in that mirror 5% of the time if I need to, and I only go back about 5%. I don't go into deeply rooted issues, past issues and trauma. That's not what I do. What I do is, and sometimes that's even better. That's, a lot of people say they like it better than therapy and counseling, because therapy and counseling sometimes just goes back to the past, and sometimes you don't need, you just want to deal with where you are now. And so what I do is take you where you are now and ask you where you want to be. What does it look like on paper for you? Where do you want to be? And we get you there. I give you action goals. I give you steps, for the challenges that you're having now and where you are now. And I take you to where you want to go. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. We're talking about the husband who wants sex every day. There's a fly in here. The husband who wants sex every single day, and he gets angry and upset when his wife tells him no. That is, I do not think that a husband has the right to use his role in his husband privileges in that manner. I do not think it's okay to use sex as a weapon on either side. I don't think it's okay for sex to be used as a weapon. I do not believe it's a woman's duty to say yes if every time her husband wants to have sex, if he wants to have sex 7 days a week and multiple times a day. I do not think that she has to say yes. I do not think that it's okay to now, I'm not saying it's okay for you to tell your husband no all the time, ladies. I'm not saying that. And I'm talking to the ladies who are just in average situations here. If your husband wants to have sex 3 times a week and you want to have it twice or once or not at all, you should be making some type of compromise to have sex with your husband 3 times a week. So if he wants it twice a week and vice versa, if you're the higher desiring spouse and you want sex 3 times a week and he wants it once, he should be compromising and feeling and making sure that your needs are met. Now, back to what we're talking about here. We're talking about the circumstances that are not average, when they want it 7 days a week and sometimes multiple times in that day. So that's a lot of sex, and it's not okay for him to think that you must say yes every time he wants it. Okay, so I do have some notes here, so if you see my eyes wandering, I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So I just want you to know that, okay, for one, you're a wife and you're a person to be loved, and you're not a body to use. Anybody can take a penis and stick it into a vagina and have intercourse. You are not required to just have intercourse. Sometimes I understand sex is just purely a physical thing in marriage. It shouldn't be often, but it is sometimes just a stress relief, and that's fine. But if it's like it's becoming too much on an average every day, you just feel like you're just a physical release for your husband, that's not okay. Because what you are called to do is to have a sexual relationship with your husband. A relationship requires one or more people, and it's a benefit in it for both parties. You're not called to just have intercourse with your husband, but you guys are supposed to be working together to have a sexual relationship. Okay? And you're not to be just used as some type of masturbatory tool. That isn't okay. Okay? And I think I said earlier that I think it's coercion. And the reason why I believe that it's coercion is because he is, if you say no to him wanting sex, and again, I want to make sure that I'm clear. I'm talking to the wife whose husband wants sex every single day and multiple times a day sometimes. Not even if he doesn't want multiple times. If he wants it every single day and you are saying no a few of those times a week, and he's actually going into a state where he's being emotionally distant and emotionally withdrawal from you, and that he is being disrespectful and angry, and just because you said no. So to me, that's coercion, because he's creating an atmosphere of anxiety and a fear. He's putting fear into your marriage, a fear of retaliation, because now he's saying things like, you don't love me. because you're not pleasing me. You don't have sex with me. You don't love me. You're my wife. You're supposed to have sex with me anytime that I say I want it. And if you don't do it, you don't love me, and I don't need you anymore. So he's creating a fear of anxiety and retaliation, and that's coercion. That's not okay, because you're supposed to be able to give him consensual sex, and consent is enthusiastic. Okay, and a consensual sex is agreeing to have sex and being enthusiastic about it. But if you're having sex with him only to avoid punishment, that's coercion, and that's not consent. Okay, so I just want to go ahead and go into I want to make sure I get some of those points out that it's not okay, and before I can go into giving you some tips. And once again, if you've tried these things and they haven't worked, you probably need to seek some outside help. Because what's going to happen is you're going to create some resentment you're not going to create some resentment. It's going to come into your marriage, and some frustration. And a marriage is supposed to be a lifetime commitment. That's a long time. You don't want to be in no marriage that's full of resentment and frustration because your husband is being too sexually demanding and too sexually aggressive. He has a responsibility and a duty to romance you. And see, the thing is, there's this gap between a man and a woman. There's a gap. Let me see. I'm going to try it right now. You got the man and you got the woman. I'm going to hold this piece of paper up. And you have his desire. You have her desire. And there's a road. And you're supposed to have some exits. I'm no artist, guys. But anyway, this is just a general. See, you have his desire and you have her desire. And in between that, there's a road and there's a gap. So it is, as married couples, we have a responsibility to close this gap. We have a responsibility to close this gap by doing some things. So he has a responsibility to create enthusiasm for you in the marriage. He has a responsibility to create some enthusiasm to make you want to be sexually excited. And if he's just giving you rough sex all the time, choking you all the time, and I'm good. Listen, hey, y'all know me. I like that kind of stuff too sometimes, but sometimes you just want to be romanced and you want to be not just feel like an object, right? There's a time and a place for that, but you don't want that all the time. And he has a responsibility to treat you, make you feel loved and appreciated and valued as his wife, and not just as some sexual object. So, but anyway, anyhow, like I was saying, twice a day, twice a week, twice a month. There is no magic number to how often you should have sex with your spouse, because the important thing is that you should feel valued. Both of you should value your relationship and your sexual relationship and your sex drives. It should be some value there. The number doesn't matter. The value is what counts, okay? Because everybody's different. You need to move to the beat of your own drum in your marriage. Find your own sexual rhythm. Healthy sexual rhythm. So we all know that some marriages are really destroyed by the use of sex as a weapon. And we don't want that to happen in your marriage, okay? Now, I want to say this. Your husband's feelings are important. They matter. They should matter to you. You don't want to make him feel like he's not, his feelings don't matter, and that his feelings aren't valid, because they are, okay? So you need to go to him and you need to ask him, what makes you want to have sex with me? Okay, and then you flip that script and you tell him what makes you want to have sex with him. You tell him what gets you excited. You tell him how what makes you enthusiastic about sex. You tell him all of those things because your husband is your partner. He's not your father. He's your partner, and you should be able to go to him and talk to him about anything. You should be able to, especially, and I know that sex sometimes is a little hard. I get it, sis, because you want to make sure your husband is sexually satisfied. I understand that. We all want make sure that we're sexually satisfying our husbands. You want him to feel appreciated and valued because he loves you and you love him. I understand that, but you don't want to have resentment in your marriage. So you want to take care of this, okay? Because sex is very important in marriage. So you don't want this just to linger. You want to take care of this, and you want this to be something that you two get a hold of. So you go to your man and you talk to him, and you tell him, and be open and honest, and you tell him what makes you feel more enthusiastic to have sex with him. You tell him how it makes you feel, how you're feeling like a sexual object, and that you're wanting more from you want to have a sexual relationship with your husband, and you want him to have more than what you have now from him. You tell him that. And you tell him that his sulking feels like manipulation to you, and that doesn't make you feel valued and loved and appreciated. You have an open discussion about those things. You also ask him, is sex just purely a physical release for him? Or is he trying to connect with you? Because if he's trying to connect with you, and it's not just a purely physical release, you guys need to find another way to connect. You talk about other ways to connect, and you want to make sure that you're not missing the mark on some things as far as, complimenting your husband, as far as, boosting his ego. This all sounds silly, but it's wife stuff, come on, we're wives in here. So that's just, people on the outside may say, oh, I don't have, your wife. Okay, deal with it. You have a responsibility to boost your husband's ego. You have a responsibility to make him feel like the man. Okay? Superman. So make sure you're not overlooking some things there, okay? Make sure that he's just not trying to find a way to validate himself and his position in your life, which I don't think that's the case in a lot of the people that I've talked to, but you never know. Just make sure that's something that you're not overlooking. So you go to him in a loving way and you tell him, honey, I love you. I would love to have a great and fulfilling sexual relationship with you, but a relationship is 2 ways, okay? But I just no longer, I don't want to be treated like a sex object anymore. I don't want to be the person that you just come to and to catch a nut, and you're not giving me the romance and the emotional connection that I need to go along with that. I'm your wife and I love you, and I want to connect with you on every level. I'm no longer willing to be a sexual object. I want sex to be a mutual thing and not something that makes me feel degraded. And yes, I know some of these men are thinking just because you're having an orgasm that you don't really mean no. I've heard that so many times. To be honest, my husband doesn't have an extremely high sex drive like some of these men, but I know it's been a time where I may have acted like I didn't want to have sex. And, I didn't really feel like having sex. And and afterwards he would say, you must, you did want it, because I had an orgasm. But that's not the case. I didn't, I may have been tired at the moment, but like I said, I'm not going to turn my husband away if he's asking for sex 2 or 3 times a week. Come on, I'm not going to do that. But, so I'll do it because I love him. But if it begins to become an unhealthy thing where he's asking for sex every day, me and homeboy going to have a talk. And I don't feel like it. Now, if I felt like it, it'd be different if I'm all game. But if I'm getting tired and then he wants to just have all this rough sex every day, me and homeboy going to have a talk. Just point blank, period. So I just want to make sure that you guys understand that you know, you can go to your husband and be open and honest and ask him what makes him. Be sure to understand what makes him, because you got to get some understanding. So be sure that you understand what is making him want to have this sex so much, and listen to him, and be sure to flip that script and tell him how it makes you feel and how degraded you feel, but also tell him what makes you enthusiastic about sex. And you guys come up with a plan. And stick to it. I mean, write it out. You know, if you need my help, let me know. I'm here. I can help you develop a plan. We can talk, but write a plan out and make a plan, write it out, discuss it in a loving way, hold hands. Be sure to touch your husband when you're talking to him. Hold his hand so that he'll feel loved, okay? Hold his hand, rub his little beard, his little bald head, his hair, whatever you got to do to make him feel loved. Kiss him, you know, but go to your husband and have this conversation because it's serious, and let him know. You know, if you get emotional, let it out. Don't hold it in. If you need to cry, because I understand it. It's tough. You know, I'm sorry that this is even happening to some of you, because you're not a sexual object, and it makes me a little emotional. I don't want you to feel like a sexual object. You know, you're a wife. You are someone that is to be loved and cared for and handled in a very delicate way. And I want you to talk to your husband. I want you to grab a hold of this. I don't want this to ruin your marriage and your relationship with your husband. Okay, so I have to go because I have to go pick up my baby from school. But this message may have been all over the place, but I'm going to try to do more of these videos and maybe even some live videos. So you guys give me some ideas. And just throw this out there. If you guys feel the need to donate any amount, large or small, no amount is too large or too small, because this does take time away from some of my other things where, you know, I'm coming up with this content and these posts. If you want to donate, you can to, we have a Cash App now, and it is $official marriage code. If you feel led to, please do so, okay? And I greatly appreciate it. But anyhow, ladies, bye-bye. I'll talk to you later.